Okay, y'all, today we're going to do steak tips and potatoes. I just bought a London broil. I'm just going to cut it up. I got my yellow potatoes. We're going to use some minced onions. We're going to use garlic butter. You can use anybody that makes it. I know Kinder's really good. McCormick's was on sale. Minced garlic, and I'm going to use a pack of Kinder's bone broth classic beef gravy. So, of course, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up our steak. I do have my crock pot with a liner. By the way, the little liners fit the casserole crock pot. I have it on high just to heat it up. We are actually going to cook it on low. Alright guys, so we have our steak out, and we're just going to cut it into chunks. You can buy steak tips already cut up. It was actually cheaper to buy the big steak. So, we're just going to cut them into pieces about that big. And then we're just going to throw them into a bowl. You can cut it into any size you want. I just want mine to be pretty evenly sized. Also, smaller you cut it, the smaller it's going to be when you cook it down. Just keep that in mind if you choose to cut up your steak. Also, when cutting it, just make sure if you cut it certain ways, it may be a little tougher. So yeah, you're just going to cut up the whole steak, throw it in a bowl, and then we're going to cut up our potatoes. Alright guys, so now we're going to do our potatoes using yellow potatoes. So we're going to rinse them, and then we're going to cut them. You can cut them into chunks and or halves. And then we're going to throw them in the bowl. I'm going to throw mine in the bowl with the steak tips so I can just use them all at once. Okay guys, so again, we're just going to cut our potatoes. You can cut them in halves or quarters. I am just going to cut mine probably into halves, like so. Again, you can just cut them however you want them, and then I'm just going to throw them into the bowl with my steak tips, and I'm just going to do my whole bag. Alright guys, so we have our potatoes cut up and our meat cut up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our bone broth gravy packet. Alright guys, we're just going to season this by pouring it all over everything. That's going to be our first step. Then we're going to add our garlic butter seasoning. And this is just kind of as you like it. I think it just kind of adds to it for the garlic and the butter. I think it's a nice addition, so I'm going to add quite a bit. Has a good smell. Alright guys, so now we're going to add some actual minced garlic. This is a season with your heart. I'm going to do quite a bit. So, 2 fairly good spoonfuls. Alright, so now that we have all that, we're going to take our big spatula. We're just going to kind of work it through the meat and the potatoes so that everything gets good and seasoned and coated before we put it in our crock pot. That way you don't miss a spot. When you're cooking it, everything is equally coated and it all has a really, really, really good flavor. Alright, now that we have it good and mixed, we're going to just put it into our crock pot that we already got a liner in. And I love this little crock pot because it holds just enough for a couple people. Just kind of mush it in. And I feel like it actually cooks a little faster. Whoop, lost a few pieces. So, we're gonna get it all in there. Barely fits, but we're gonna make it. Alright, so now that we have it in there, the last step we're gonna do is we're gonna throw a little bit of butter in there to add just a little bit of juice. So I use my little butter balls from Land O'Lake. I'm just gonna stick a couple in here. This is just gonna help to create its own juice. Just like that. Now we're gonna put our lid on. Like so. And we're just going to let it cook on low for about 6 hours. And it's going to be delicious. Alright, so this has been on low for about six-ish hours. 6.5. And, I mean, this looks good. It's done. It's tender. Potatoes are done. Got some juice. This is a really good steak tips and potato recipe. I hope you guys like it as much as my family does.